What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and I am joined by Degenerate Jay, and we're going to be talking about a topic that we both, I think, are very passionate on. We could talk about this back and forth, together for hours, and we won't do that here. But number one, an amazing guy. I've made videos with Jay before. If you guys don't know who he is, all of his stuff is going to be in the description and a pinned comment. Check his channel out. He's a friend of mine personally. He also is just an amazing creator that I'm always happy to talk to, and hopefully you guys can kind of sense the chemistry we have. So Jay, let me welcome you, and then we'll get right into it. So thank you for being here.
Hey man, you're gonna get in some trouble. You're having the #1 Tim Drake hater on the channel, so you might want to distance yourself from me in this video. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks for having me.
So I like to consider myself somebody who really pushes for this, and I want to make sure I come across the right way, and I try to say in all these videos, right? We're okay. And Jay too, right? We're okay with disagreements. We're okay with people not, being completely on our side, as long as you kind of hear us out, I would say, is kind of the sense. But I've talked a lot about the gaming industry, which really, in my opinion, now means gaming developers and publishers and also gaming journalists. I know I talk a lot about the journalists. They do drive me crazy. But the gaming media, like the people who make the games, they're sometimes equally, if not worse. And so, I've talked about different parts of it before. I kind of want to just have Jay on here to discuss, a general kind of talk about this stuff of, are we too hard on them? And I won't lie, it was to, this is trying to get people that maybe we've never gotten before, but also get people that I have talked to before, because I think the easy answer is no. I think that we're not too hard on them. I think they kind of deserve everything that, and to make it clear again, right? No threats, no attacks, no harassment. That kind of stuff is never okay. I've never done it. Jay's never done it. To my knowledge, we've never told anybody in our lives to do it. So, nobody can ever get us with that kind of, argument that we send people. We never have and we never will. But, calling things out, right, for what they are. That's the main thing that I've always tried to do. It's gotten me in trouble, there's no doubt. It's probably fractured some sort of relationship between me, maybe Jay, and also the gaming industry, developers, press of these companies. It absolutely, we're never going to be able to go talk to an IGN employee. There's no way that would happen. So, Jay, I mean, just generally, I guess maybe too harsh of a question. Like, do you think they deserve what they get? But also, like, how do you feel about what's kind of happened in the gaming industry the past couple of years between, kind of us calling them out for what they are?
I mean, it's just something too, like, it's not even just the gaming industry. I would say entertainment as a whole is this way too now, like Hollywood, smaller subsidiaries of it, people who make movies in general that are not indie creators, and more prominently, the gaming industry, I think, is widely seen that way because of games journalism. The issue with a lot of this is that there are good people. There are good developers that are like really nice people, good workers. We even see this with Blizzard, where it's like Blizzard gets swept up into this whole thing, and they got the Cosby hotel room and all this stuff going on, and people are like, Blizzard's terrible, boycott Blizzard. And it's like, well, hold on. Yes, I get what you're saying, but probably 98% of this company is just good people who had nothing to do with any of this, right? I think it's worth mentioning that it is a vocal it's a vocal minority that actually cares to get involved and be a dick with anything, that cares enough to go out here and throw out their political agenda or their personal views and all this stuff and put it off on the fans. And my issue with the gaming industry is just that it seems like each year that group of people becomes bigger. The group of people who want to put it off on their fans, every fan is expressing some kind of phobia or ism or whatever. I mean, there's a new word every day, and if you disagree, it's internalized. If you are we even see it with like content creators. I hate the words of color. Somehow that's politically correct now, but content creators who would be in a minority community, even if you are black and you say like, I disagree with this thing, you're going to get a wide slew of comments on. Like, I'm just saying, for example, let's say you were black and you put out a video about why you hated the Black Panther movie or why you think Black Panther in the Avengers game is offensive. You're going to get a wide slew of people attacking you, speaking for you. You're going to get gaming journalists, if you're big enough, probably writing articles about how you did that thing. Look, every time PewDiePie lifts a finger, you have like Deserto or somebody else writing a piece about him, positive or negative. I think that the thing with the gaming industry is that with games journalism, they rely completely on behind the scenes looks at stuff. Look at Kotaku recently, and I believe you talked about it as well, with not getting their preview of Far Cry, and how it was just a huge deal, and they basically put up a whole piece crying about how they didn't get invited to the preview. This is what they rely on for games journalism, and I think that negativity and that parasitic or symbiotic relationship, it only works if you're a yes man. That's why people would never invite someone like you or me to do something in terms of a journalism thing. Because if I'm Naughty Dog and I know, Jay didn't really like The Last of Us 2 that much. Like, he admits that it's good gameplay and everything, but he thought the story was just done to be edgy and he didn't really like how it was executed. Why would I invite him to The Last of Us 3? Why would I invite him? Because he might say something bad about it. Whereas, let's say, there's somebody who's a yes man who just loves everything we put out. Let's invite him. I think that the gaming industry feeds off of a yes man mentality with journalism and with themselves. You can see how quickly people are outed from companies for disagreeing and for having varying opinions. The Tripwire thing is another thing, too, without going on too many tangents, because you talked about this recently with their CEO stepping down because of his opinions on when human life becomes human life, I would say that, and how to handle it. And their new CEO, or at least the interim replacement, he had a picture of himself holding a gun on LinkedIn or IMDb, I forget which, and people were already calling for his job because they were like, really, you got a mentally unwell person to step in? All this stuff never ends. It's all a cycle of negativity, and it really leans one direction without going too far into that, but it's very ridiculous. If anything, I don't think I'm hard enough on the gaming industry. There's so many times I back off from talking about it just because I don't want to deal with how angry everyone gets, because it's like, is this really worth my emotional investment? And I've gotten older, I don't care as much, where it's like, no, I'm just gonna say it because like this industry sucks.
Well, honestly, man, what I've a couple of things I want to touch on what you said, but even to that last point, like it's become a thing where, like you said, it's almost like, do you even interact with this because of all the stuff that comes with it? And it's like, people, I think, value opinions and like standing by them. People didn't like that I said, I didn't like the Suicide Squad, or I didn't like Godzilla vs. Kong, but I said it. You at least know where I stand, and I'm not really afraid. I know the consequences, and I'm very aware, but I'm not afraid of just having that kind of be out there. And in my heart of hearts, I am just saying it. And if you disagree with it, that's cool. There's so many people that said they loved it, and I responded to like all of them, and I said, that's awesome. Like, I'm happy. And I'm like, because that's who I am. And what I think you have with these gaming journalists is just literally a bunch of phonies, people that, and I always say, I gotta trademark it, because I say like the 4 pillars: they hate their job, they hate themselves, they hate the people around them, like their colleagues, and they hate us, the gamers. That's the pinnacle. That's the 4 pillars of gaming journalists. You need to do those for the most part. Now, I will say this to Jay's thing earlier. I do agree, and I don't know how exactly, and you could clarify it in a second. I would say developers and stuff, there are a lot more good ones. They stay quiet better, I'd also argue, right? They don't speak up. It's only like the very loud president or lead designer, like a Neil Druckmann type, right? I would say that, is kind of the case, and I respect the gaming developers and publishers more than gaming journalists. Gaming journalists, I would say it's the majority. I would maybe we disagree on that point, and that's totally, we don't often disagree, but if we do, that's fine. I do think most gaming journalists are Like, just they're the same people. We've actually talked about that before. Same exact people. Yes, people. They blame everybody but themselves. They either are bad at games or they don't like games, or again, they don't like gamers, stuff like that. There are good ones. I mean, people follow me on Twitter. I know there's good ones. I go on pretty okay, I would say, websites sometimes to see stuff. I know there's good ones, but I would say overwhelmingly, maybe even publications, Kotaku, GameSpot, Polygon, it's hard to name a good one. In fact, none of those are good, right? So you keep going down the line. And, you know, to your point, what you said last, and I guess one of the things I like to kind of drive home is they are, like you said, just yes people that have the exact same opinion on everything. They will blame toxic fandoms. They'll blame this. They'll blame that. They'll never blame themselves. They'll never actually be honest. And even to that point, right? I'm sure some of these people are different. And not different in like, oh, you're a freak, like you're a weird, but no, I mean, that you can be different. You can have, I want people that say different things. Why is someone like Colin Moriarty, who I love the guy, I think he's an awesome guy. Why is he so like tantalizing? Why does he stick out? Because he's different and he's succeeded. You know, he actually got exiled from the gaming industry, but he succeeded in just being someone who's flat out different than this hive mind, and he's succeeded at his job, so he's still kind of relevant that people know who he is. I mean, I love people like, I would listen, or maybe not even listen. You know, maybe I don't even support people that would think like complete opposite of me, and that's okay if you do or don't, but at least they're able to do it. The problem with these people is they're all the exact same person. And so, yeah, Naughty Dog, of course, wants people that just love The Last of Us to show up. But I think a reason why, you know, we're not the biggest YouTubers of all time, but I think why people are literally fleeing IGN, GameSpot, Kotaku, I mean, these guys don't have as much traffic as they did, and they're going to continue to lose some. There's a reason why people are leaving them and coming to people like us. I mean, that's just factually happening, and they'll tell you the same thing. It's because we literally have our own opinions, and that's what they used to have 15, 20 years ago, but they don't have that anymore. So I like to end it kind of on that, right? Because it's more like, and I'm going to give it back to you, Jay, but like my last say, I like to say that kind of stuff because it's like, you know, I guess I like to feel good about myself. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it's like, we are different. We are, because, and really, we're only different because we speak our minds. I mean, I'm sure there's other people that are interested in Kena Bridge of Spirits. I'm into that. I'm one of the main people on YouTube that cover it. I'm sure there's others, but what's the difference? Well, I literally just speak. I speak. I don't have a script. I don't have an edit. I don't have like an editor-in-chief that goes through my report and tells me what's right and wrong. It's just me. And you know that it's just me. You know what I mean? And I think you lose so much of that in these gaming journalists when they are just literally a hive mind, the exact same person. They have no personality. You could swap. That's why they're called NPCs, right? You swap one out for the other, and you literally can't tell the difference because there's nothing. I mean, that sounds negative, but there's nothing interesting about 90%, 95% of gaming journalists at large.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. The thing with what I was saying too is that it's the quiet people that you don't hear that I think there are a lot of, that even in games journalism, you hear probably the same 100 voices over and over again. That's the issue I have with it. Whereas like when I actually was going to work at Kotaku, this is a story I don't bring up often, but I bring it up sometimes, as a freelancer. So I guess you could say work at, not work at, I don't know how you'd put it. But when I interviewed for that, they actually had said like, yeah, we like what you do, but we don't have space on the team right now. You know, contact us again in a couple months. And it was kind of one of those things where at the time they were starting to get worse and worse. This was years ago. So keep in mind that they were, Kotaku was never the best, but back in the day, they were not so apparently biased and not so apparently douchey, in my opinion. And so the thing that I have with that is that from talking to them and from looking at who puts out what, it's these same few radical ideologues usually who get the spotlight. And the issue I have with games journalism is that it's kind of like YouTube. Most of the people who actually want to do it aren't really doing it. They're just like really small. They put out a piece every once in a while. They're also working at a coffee shop. They want to do it, but they can't. And I don't think those people get any recognition because no one wants to hire them because their milquetoast or tempered opinions are not going to drive clicks. You know what I mean? Someone just, let's say Gotham Knights comes out. Someone at Kotaku putting out an article about Gotham Knights is really fun. is not going to get as many hits as how Gotham Knights reinforces the economic divide between the rich and the lower class by painting Bruce Wayne as a heroic, tragic figure like Jeff Bezos, who just went to space. You know what I mean? Like they'll drag on some really weird tangent that's not connected really at all. And that will drive hate views almost, which is what they rely on at this point. It drives insane, radical ideologues and hate clicks. So the polar opposites, and people in the middle kind of just see it and scroll past it because they're like, oh, okay. And I think that my issue with the games journalism industry is you are absolutely right. The people who have jobs who are very big, they are mostly bad. But a lot of the people who want to get into that industry and who do write pieces on the side and do things like that for much smaller venues, no one notices them and no one cares because they can't push that, you know. And I think that over time it's just a disappointment, because I remember back when I was young, gaming journalism was about how good the graphics were, what was interesting about this, if like the GTA hot coffee mod, was there something hidden in here and like, oh man, we can actually have a conversation about this. Or one of the big actual, you know, hard-hitting conversations was, do video games cause violence? And that was a real conversation, and it was worth having. You know, it was worth talking about and looking at the evidence, and overwhelmingly it was always no, but it was a hard-hitting real life thing that was worth having. As our world has become more and more politicized and divided, so have all of these industries, and I think it's really sad because, you know, you don't get to see those small people who want to get into that industry and want to do good work. They are all going to YouTube now, I think is worth saying. Like, the people that maybe typically would have wanted to write those pieces, they're you and me now. You know, I'm not 100%. Saying you ever wanted to go into it, but we talk about it in a different way where we're not beholden to a company above us that has its own agenda.
Look, I actually, you know, back in the day, I would listen to Podcast Beyond. That was my main thing. And so maybe you could, right there, you can nail me. I'm a PlayStation fanboy, by the way. But I would listen to Podcast Beyond on IGN. That was like my main thing. Colin Moriarty, Greg Miller, Ryan Clements. Like, these were the people that I listened to for years. And that's why I love Colin. And I just used to listen to stories. You know, I like things that are different. Like, and Colin would write kind of different pieces. He'd write very historical pieces about Naughty Dog. Like, let's literally look at how they made these games the last 20 years. How do you come up with the idea of Jak and Daxter? And he would write these insanely long, like, historical pieces. I love that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I love, like, actually talking about the freaking video games and, like, that stuff and just stories. You know, like experiences, experiencing these things for the first time, and what's it like, and what's the gameplay like, and what is this compared to? I mean, this stuff doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't, and that it sucks. And you're right. I think the people that do that kind of stuff, they find that's like podcasting. I mean, that's kind of what Colin Moriarty has done. I know I'm using him as an example. I just like the guy, but he's kind of taken that in a different way. He kind of was always built for just a podcast, like a storytelling for an hour, you know, once or twice a week. That's what he's made for. You know, like you said, these people, we don't need IGN, we don't need Kotaku. Who actually goes on these websites? Like you said, the polar opposite people of the two completely separate kind of spectrums. Those are the only people that go on anymore, and they're fading because those people don't actually, like I would say, those people don't actually exist. They do exist, but they exist in very small numbers. These websites are dying. They are, and people are moving elsewhere. I mean, I don't know. I'm not the biggest. The last thing I'll say, I'm not the biggest channel. In fact, like, Jay's bigger than me, but I cover a lot of gaming news and a lot of this stuff, and I do see people that say, you know, they come to me daily to hear about gaming opinions, gaming news, different games that I cover that are, like, relevant games, and they come to me. They don't go to IGN. In fact, people have told me, like, if you didn't cover this stuff, I would never have heard about it. And it's like, well, obviously they're not going, or maybe IGN, Kotaku, they're not actually covering it, but I doubt these people are going there, you know what I mean, in the first place. So I'm insanely honored that even happened. And I want to be that. Honestly, that's kind of like a long-term goal. I mean, I'd love to be that for people, and I kind of already am to some. So, you know, it ends in a nice story, I would say, because these guys are all dying out. You know, this is a dying thing, and there's a new life, and we're kind of in the middle of it right now on YouTube. So Jay, I'll say goodbye, and you can say kind of any last thoughts you have to say. So, number one, make sure you guys are supporting this man. He does an incredible job. He covers a lot of different stuff on his channel, just like me. So, Jay, thank you so much for being here, and if you have any, last things you want to say.
Hey, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. I do have one final thing, and I'm sure you'll have a opinion on it, but I won't drag this out. I cannot say the company because, so obviously someone could say I'm making it up, but because of NDAs that a close acquaintance of mine was under. But the thing with the gaming, not journalism, but the gaming development community too, because we talked about, are we too hard on them? And we talked a lot about gaming journalism, is that I think people forget there is a lot of anger in the gaming development community as well between different developers. People don't talk about this stuff mainly because they're under NDAs or legally can't, but I had a friend who was working QA, quality assurance, for a very big company, and you have no idea, like just how bad even some of these developers will treat the QA people, where you'll have developers who are under a development lead and they will get angry at the quality assurance, like, why'd you offer this unasked for opinion? And it's like, well, because the massive conglomerate we work for is paying me to do that. And these people will fight back and forth. There's so much infighting even just with stuff and egos and everything, and it's crazy. And I hope that at some point I can elaborate on that further, because those NDAs last for a couple years usually. But yeah, there is a lot of anger in these industries, even between the workers, where if you are not a yes man, like if you don't get I'm going to say, like, you don't get some asset submitted to you and then you look over it for quality assurance and just throw it back and say it's perfect, you're a god, people will be angry at you. And so when you have industries operating with this level of anger and animosity in them, it's no wonder that things like the journalism covering it die. It's no wonder that people flee towards indie creators and small teams that, yes, can't compete with, the huge companies of the world, but they can put out something with a lot of heart in it. I think that it's like what you and I have talked about with Hollywood. There's a bit of a shift. I don't think it's as big of a breakdown with gaming, where gaming is dying or anything, but I think that people, they see the difference, and they are more willing to go and try smaller things and smaller creators and listen to smaller opinions, because they're so damn tired of hearing the same thing over and over again. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, I'm just going to end it there, and I appreciate you having me, but I think that's kind of what needs to happen, is people need to leave these huge things, because typically when something gets way too big, it gets way too far up its own backside and can't see where it came from anymore.
Yep. And final thing I'll say is, normally those people that are the angry people that do look down, they're the same keyboard warriors. They go to Twitter and preach equality, diversity, call stuff out in your workplace if you see it. They're always those people, and yet they do it in their own lives. It's always them. I mean, the evidence is overwhelming. So that's, I guess, the last thing, to kind of stick it to those kind of people. So let us know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you for hopefully making it through this very long video, but honestly, it's worth it. I love having these conversations. I normally do it alone. It's even better having Jay here, so I want to thank him again. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you support him. If you guys haven't, supported me in any of the places, I have Twitter, second channel, all that stuff, all in the description, along with Jay's stuff. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.